Greg, the Uber driver. Today is Saturday, November the 11th, and I want to call out Governor DeSantis and the Republican-controlled legislature that had a special session this week for a couple of days. Basically, it was just to pass some resolutions about anti-Iran, foreign policy issues that Florida really has nothing to do, no control about, nothing they can really do. But the problems Governor DeSantis and the legislature should have dealt with, the out-of-control insurance prices, which I'll talk about, the out-of-control inflation, the out-of-control real estate costs, the crushing of tourism due to Governor DeSantis' laws, the lack of labor, which also impacts the insurance and also impacts the housing prices, the massive teacher shortage that we have in Florida due to Governor DeSantis and his policies, the lack of medical insurance and coverage for many poor people that have been taken off. Florida is one of the few states that's not expanded this out to cover everybody. Nothing to do about school safety, about gun violence, about any of these issues that we need to be dealing with. None of these things. Nothing at all that the state could deal with or they actually should be dealing with. They did nothing to deal with any of this. One of the reasons that Florida has these out of control insurance prices, guys, is not the reason you think. All of you are not particularly aware that hurricanes, yes, hurricanes are a factor. Florida is not the only state in the United States to have hurricanes. Florida has had about 120 or so hurricanes. Texas is next with 70 hurricanes. Louisiana is next with about 70. Then it's North Carolina with like 60. South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Virginia, New Jersey, New York. They've all had plenty of hurricanes. But their insurance prices are not 5 times higher than the rest of the United States. So it's not just hurricanes. Another factor has to do with the state laws, which the governor and the legislature do control. And the governor, by the way, did take $3.9 million from the insurance companies. And also another factor has to do with rebuilding a home once it's destroyed, the price to rebuild. What factors go into rebuilding? The cost to rebuild heavily is influenced by the cost of labor. All right. There has been a shortage in labor for Florida for years. Also, by the way, around the country right now, there are 10.1 million jobs open that there are not laborers for. There are not American workers to fill. So all of you all that say, oh, the foreigners, undocumented are taking our jobs, they are not. Please use correct facts and don't use your brain that's not all there. That's not true. There are 10.1 million open jobs right now that there are no able-bodied people in this country to take. And so the same thing in Florida. So if we have high insurance costs due to high real estate costs to rebuild, we need to increase the supply of real estate. How do we do that? We do that by increasing the construction workforce so there are more workers to build properties. And what does Governor DeSantis and the legislature do? They pass SB 1718 and they drive 40% of the construction workforce out of Florida. Does the exact opposite of what they need to do. And none of you all catch on to this point. You just miss it, you miss it, you miss it. It just goes right over your little head and you don't catch on to that. We have massive problems with inflation. Florida's inflation rate is 3 times the national average because of the insurance costs, because of the real estate costs. These factors are all impacted by the governor, their choices on labor, and the choices about the insurance laws. They are responsible. It's not Biden. Biden does not cause inflation to be 3 times higher in Florida than the rest of the country. That's just not correct. Use correct facts and not Fox News. Other thing I want to talk about is tourism. Governor DeSantis, with his anti-culture wars, his laws against gays, his laws against Disney, his against African-American people, his open carry permits has caused thousands and thousands of tourists not to come to Florida. Now we're in a 6-month decline for the hotel tax revenues that all started in the end of April when all of the governor's policies went into effect. This is on Governor DeSantis' hands. I know my Uber business is off. It's still off significantly. It's gotten better, but it's still way off from where it should be, all because of Governor DeSantis and the legislature's policies. So these are some problems they should be dealing with. And another are the massive teacher shortages. Governor's laws and the legislature's laws regarding teachers' ability to teach in classrooms, all of this banning of books, all of this, they can be fired and charged with a 3rd-degree felony for having a book in their classroom. We're going back to the 1930s in Germany, and this is why teachers are leaving. They are afraid of Governor DeSantis. He is definitely an autocrat, and if not borderline fascist, if not a fascist. And that's not where we need to go. So another thing I do want to say is, if you notice the elections that were this week in Virginia, in Pennsylvania, in Kentucky, in Ohio, people turned out to vote. And look what happened. The Democrats win. Again, a reason that DeSantis did so well in 2022, 7 million voters in Florida did not go vote. Half the state didn't vote. And the same thing in the election on this week. A lot of voters, Democrats, stayed home. For some reason in Florida, they stayed home. Same thing in Texas. 8 million voters in Texas stayed home in 2022. They did not vote. Guys, if you don't get off your ass and vote, you're going to continue to get people like DeSantis, fascists, and Greg Abbott in office. You've got to vote. It is important, and you need to get off your asses and vote also. And there you have it. Kind of rambling, but that's it. That's the way it is today. Love to hear from you. Love your feedback. And if you like the video, let others see it.